What's going on, y'all? It's the Stale Ham Sandwich with iTrendz, bringing another hot topic video. Today, we're going to be discussing how to build a watch list. We're going to show you guys what we do to identify which stocks we're going to trade. We're going to also look at key support and resistance levels to get those over-unders in the stocks that we are trading. We're also going to show you guys how to enter those trades when watching that retest or watching a key breakout. And we're also going to show you guys what we're doing with execution so that way you guys can become successful traders and begin the process of learning how to build your own watch list. So we're going to get right into it. So when we're focusing on what stocks to trade, what we like to do is look for the stocks that have extremely high volume. So you're looking at your AMD, Amazon. Earnings plays have a lot to do with it as well. You go to Earning Whispers, they can show you the whole earnings list for the week. Those will tend to have higher volume because they're waiting on those reports, but they are volatile as well. We also look for bills that are going to pass in the government that may move the market. So, such as the semi chip bill that passed last week, which saw all of the semiconductors have a pop in the stock. We also focus on key points in the market, such as the overall structure, just like QQQ approaching key levels of support, which means that the tech sector will run, or if SPY is having an off day or biotech is falling. Those are things we look for as well. So when building your stock list, you want to focus on those that have the high volume. That way that you're leaving yourself the potential to create short-term gains that will be sustainable because of the volume that are in those stocks. So when trading any kind of level, when looking for an over-under, you always want to have your overall picture. So when you're doing that, you want to chart on a larger time frame. So we're going to do that real quick. We have AMD on the list right here. We're just going to mark some key levels in general so that way we have some over under in a bigger picture on AMD. So we're going to get right into it. So I'm going to snap a horizontal line right here at this volume shelf where you see that this stock has pulled back or pushed before. AMD does have earnings this week on Tuesday. That's why we went ahead and selected this stock. It also is one that has high volume and those contracts remain liquid. So that's one reason that we like to trade AMD here at iTrendz, or it's one of our top picks on our focus list 9 times out of 10. So as you see, I'm just marking some over under lists in the bigger picture. So that way we have a general idea of where AMD could go. So now when you are creating any kind of watch list or any other support and resistance levels with over unders, you always want to have that bigger picture in mind so you can see what's going on with the overall trend. Then you're going to drop down to the daily time frame, and this is where you're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the stock. So what you want to do is you want to look for where this stock potentially could pull back or push over, and that's something that we're going to identify right now. As you can see here on my chart, we do have this zone marked where you have this gap filled right here. As you see it filled during the day, we had this mark from previous. So it's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to take another horizontal line. We're going to look for a key level of resistance previous, which you can see before this gap was made towards that downside. We're going to mark that because it's a level that's been tested a few times, and you can see that it has a little pullback as well. So we're going to adjust it just a little bit to mark in those bodies. As you can see, we're marking the body from the previous and forward as a point. If it gets to that level, which is at 98.75, you could see this stock potentially push up to that psych level at 100. So we're going to have that mark there. We're also going to mark another one. We're going to change that color so that way we know the difference. And we're also going to mark a level towards the bottom side where this gap started out, just so we have it marked, because that's going to be an area where that volume shelf is going to protrude or push through. And you have that at 94. So this kind of carries you a general over-under list just for something to watch out for when trading this stock, just so you have a little tight range. We are going to draw 2 more lines here. I'm going to draw one more towards that downside, just in case it were to reject or pull back. As you see, we're going to tighten up right here. But we do have this right here at this 89.90 level, which is another psych level for AMD as well. Now, when trading anything on the 4-8 day trade, you do want to mark these days, but it is important to watch on that 4-hour, see where the stock is pushing. As you can see, AMD did push up pretty significant. So we're kind of waiting for if it will go retest that 98.71 or pull back. So when you're marking a watch list just during the day or for a day trade, you definitely want to have those tighter time frames leveled up. As you can see here, we did have a point on the smaller time frame, where you can see it was testing as a resistance earlier. You can see those wick throughs, but not any body closes over before this large gap up on this time frame. So we're going to change our color so that we know this is our 4-hour candle, and we're going to mark that like so. So we have that level marked right there towards that downside. We are going to get another level marked towards the top side. We are going to zoom out so we kind of see the overall picture of what happened in this area. As you can see on this 4-hour chart, coming back towards this 13th, you can see that it did level out here for a little while, pull down, and you can see it marked as here as well and before. So we're going to notice that as a level that tends to push over. Now we do have that level marked towards that top side of that 98, and we'll get one more marked on that upside, which is going to be right at that psych level. Just so we have some take profits and we know what we're looking at when we're going to be trading AMD specifically. So as you can see, we have our chart marked out here on this. So if you were creating an over-under list, what you would do is you would write a 98.75 as the top of your range, 94.41 as the bottom. Now, if you were trading at this current standpoint, it's at 96.69. So we're kind of trading right at the middle there. For me personally, I would mark that line at that 96.24 to be looking for a potential short, pushing down 94 as your confirmation and 90 as your target. If you were looking towards that top side, you really want to see a break of that 98.71. We are trading in the range here right at the middle. You may be looking at some 97 weeklies for a quick scout, but me personally, I'd be waiting for a break of that 98.71. It is some 100 calls because you can see that they're top as well. But that's just kind of an identifier on AMD. So we do have that 98.71, that 94.41, but we also have our targets in the middle that'll help you trade throughout the day. Now, whenever you are trading a stock for a quick scalp, like I said, was talking about those 97s, you do want to move down to a smaller time frame to get a real idea where the stock is trading. As you see, AMD, when it opened up, it dropped pretty low into our gap box before it made a rocket back up towards that top. Something you also want to identify when you do trade a scalp or on a smaller time frame, just so you mark those horizontal lines. You want to mark these levels right before this open. So as you can see here, we have these candles lining up, these bodies tightening up at that 96.85. So I'm going to mark that in a different color, just as kind of letting myself know that this is where it was trading at before in the market, right before we opened up. And what you want to do before pre-market is you also want to mark that bottom as well. So as you can see, you want to look for the level where the most consolidation happened, or that the levels that where they're lining up towards the bottom side. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to watch close towards that middle. What I'm going to do here is mark where we had this little gap potential right here at this bottom, where we really consolidated out. So I'm going to mark it right here. And as you come farther out, I'm going to move it up just a little bit. If we're doing this pre-market, this kind of gives you even more levels to watch. Not going on throughout the day, you can see how this stock moved, but this is just giving you an overall idea, and this gives you lines just for that daily trade. Now, when you are doing a day trade or you're just trading the stock throughout the midweek, you want to watch because you always want to keep changing these levels up or re-identifying this level. So if you were trading this stock in general, you're out on this date, on this daily. If you're looking for a week trade, you want to look at that overall picture. So we'll move to that weekly chart. We had up at 106, down at 85, the wider range. Us personally, we said that we were looking at those 100 calls or those 90 puts. Got to have that little wide range there on AMD because it is earnings as well. So if I was trading this for a trade that I'm swinging for the week, I'd be looking at those hundreds or those 90s. If I'm looking at for the day, I'll be looking at more specifically, probably stay on the hundreds on the top side. I may be looking at those 92s. If I was looking for a quick scout, as we identified that tight range, you're either looking at a 97 or a 94 put. This just gives you an idea of how we chart a stock for the day and get our levels over under. We do one more for you. We'll go to Amazon because that had amazing earnings last week. It did show a lot of growth, and this is still getting a lot of volume. So as you can see, we have Amazon. Here it is on the 4-hour. You go out to your day chart. We have this as well. So we're going to get this marked up, and we'll identify some levels for you guys. Let's go to the 4-hour. So like we said before, start way outside. Make sure you get your over-under levels. So we're back on this. We're on this week chart. We're going to watch where this top is. So we have an overall where the top of Amazon is. I'm looking for where the consolidation of these candles happen the most. So we're going to mark right up here at this top, at this 188. We're going to change it back to that blue color, marking that it is on the week. We want to get a little something relevant closer to where our trade was. So we're going to mark here right before this big drop because it's something we're going to watch to see if Amazon replays out this pattern, pushes up to that 144 and rejects it, or what happens at that level on that overall. And we are going to mark one towards that downside whenever you're charting. Like I've reiterated a lot, and we say at iTrendz, always look left because historical data will help you trade going on in the future. So what we're going to look at is I'm looking at these body closes way back out when Amazon was at these levels over here before it made another push up. You see this large candle, then consolidation before it posted back up. So something I'm going to mark, have it right there at that 112 level. We're going to take one more line, mark it a little closer so that we have accurate information. We're going to mark right here where this split is, where these bodies kind of closed up. You can see if you're looking on the overall frame, you see these bodies closed. It was obviously a key point of resistance right there at that 122. And we're going to move closer in. So we're going to go to that day chart. As you see, we had that gap for earnings, so that's something we can't ignore. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mark that gap. But if you do notice that with this earnings play, this gap right here is actually what Amazon went and refilled back during its earnings. So it's just something to notice whenever you are trading and take into account that gaps do fill themselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to mark this gap here towards this bottom side. That way I know trading in the future where it gapped up for earnings. And that way I have something to lean back on or identify when going in the future trading this, because it does save it. Your broker does save your levels and your drawings on your chart. So we're going to mark that there. So we're going to go with our daily lines. We're going to go take a horizontal line. We will change that color. It is kind of tough when trading a earnings play, just because if you do have large gaps, it's something you have to take into account. So we're going to make the tops of this, we're going to mark the tops of this wick, and then we're going to also mark the bottom as well. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the bottom of this range where we had that gap, just to get an overall picture. And we are going to have to zoom out so we can get a little more data in just trading into this box range. But as you can see, Amazon doesn't have a lot of consolidation because this is after a stock split. So we're going to have to rely mostly on these day trades when we're trading Amazon. So we're going to go down to our 4 hour. And as you can see, this was that large earnings candle that popped up. Something I do want to do on this smaller time frame, since we are on that 4 hour, I want to mark the consolidation right before that happened. So that happened around 124. I'm going to go ahead and mark that in red just because we are on our smaller time frame, and we're going to zoom in here. So as you can see, we had a lot of consolidation right here at this 135 level. You see a lot of daily closes. You can see a lot of 4 hour closes with those bodies right there. So we're going to go ahead and mark that. On that top side, it had a hard time breaking over that 135. So there's something we want to mark, not necessarily the top of that wick. We're going to mark that body just so we have a tighter range. Now that you have a little window looking into Amazon, we're going to drop down all the way to that 5 minute, just because I wouldn't be trading this on larger time frame after that earnings, just because you want to be mindful of what happened in the earnings and then seeing if it can actually confirm. As you see, we marked that point of consolidation right there at that 134. Like in the AMD, we're going to mark this little high just so we kind of have a range of where Amazon was trading pre-market and a little pre-market high, just to give us a little range in the future. And as you see, going out through the day, if you were to trade this right out the jump, you can see that these levels did stay and hold, or gave you a general idea where the stock was going to bounce. So I have that mark right there at that 135. If you're looking for Amazon on a day trade, you can see this is trending down. When you are looking for those scalp trades, you definitely want to be using your indicators. So your EMAs or your VWAP, those will help you. The 9 EMA and the 21 are definitely good indicators to use. But we're going to go ahead and mark this top of this candle here. You can see that we're trending down on this. We're going to be looking at a tighter range when trading for that scalp. We're also going to tighten up our lines on that top side. So as you can see, that 139 was the top of that close on that 4 hour. But specifically, you can see this rejecting several times right there at that 138.75 level. You see it a few times, actually, 138.70. You see that was kind of a top for that scalp trade. So that's something we're going to mark on this short term. We're also going to mark this bottom as well, just so we have a general idea where we could be trading this going into the rest of the day. I know it's a lot of lines. I'm going to differentiate this line just so I know this was for the scalp trade. Now, as you can see, we have our levels going on a scalp trade for Amazon. You can see it reject that 138.70. So that would have been a nice entry. You could follow the EMAs down. But if you were trading this going on for the future, you can either trade the bounce at 136, 137 or wait for it to pull back under that 136 to take a potential pop. Now, if you're marking this for your day trade or you're marking it for your over under levels before we started this day, specifically you're looking over 137.70 or you're looking under 135.81. But this just give you a kind of range and how you identify levels going on throughout the day. But just to recap, something that I wanted to make a point is that you're always watching for the retest and you're watching it for it to happen again. So if you're trading Amazon for the open, as we noticed before that pre-market high, you're going to wait for that retest. So we saw a large pop, we saw a pullback. This is on the 5-minute, so you can let a few candles build out before you take it. You can see we came down, tested it. We tested at 135.81, so you wouldn't get into your 137 just yet. Tested it once, tested it twice, taking it off the retest. Could have stayed in, and you could see that it never broke the level. So you could have wrote it up here and took in your profit. Vice versa, we identified that 138.70 was a point of resistance or an entry for your put. It's several times that you could have entered this trade and that you wouldn't have gotten stopped out if you were in that trade, and eventually it did break down. Now you want to make sure that you're using these lines for that take profit. So if I was going towards that top side of Amazon, I did enter right here at this 135.81. You can see you can take a profit at 136, 137, where our target was, and potentially where it was showing that resistance at 138, just to give you a little take profit and protect yourself. But that iTrendz 4-to-1, you can use those price targets as your trim levels or trimming out whatever percentage you want. Vice versa happens at that top side. So if you entered a put at that 138.70, which we did at iTrendz, your first take profit would be at that 137.70. And then once we're testing our bottom of that zone at 136.34. So like I said, when you are trading, you want to watch for that retest or confirmation and not just take a trade just because it crossed one of your levels. You're always waiting for a close. Well, 5-minute close on those scalp trades. For the day trades, a 4-hour. And then if you're looking for a swing trade, you also want to watch for those daily closes. So when you're building a watch list, what you want to look for is volume going into the stock. So if we're looking at FANG, you're looking at Amazon, Apple, AMD. If you're looking at healthcare, Merck, Lilly. If you're looking at oil, Exxon, Chevron, Marathon Oil, there's certain stocks that traders tend to navigate towards that will have higher volume. But if you're trading on the day or in general, you want to stay towards those higher trades. Earnings do bring people to the table, but also know those are also volatile as well. But it's something you look at. You also want to take into account any FOMC meeting or any bills that are being passed in Congress, because those will affect stocks as well and may give you an insight on which stocks to trade. After you do identify what you're going to trade, identify your support and resistance levels, make sure they're color coded so you know what trade you're taking when it hits that certain level, and then wait for the retest for that stock. Once it confirms over your level, take the trade, take your take profit, and succeed. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like. If you liked it a little more, hit that subscribe. If you want to listen into our live trades or watching us chart live, go ahead and check out that description below for our Discord and come join the family. Thank you guys for another video, a little hot topic video on building a watch list, and have a great week.